All right. It is recorded. There you
All
go.
right,
Go ahead, Tyrone.
all right, my siblings. So if the invitation is for you to close your eyes and just take a deep breath and feel your body, feel the seat that you're on, feel yourself being present while you are here. Brothers, I want to welcome you. Um, you have answered the call to sit in this space with us today on the iGroup Summit, to witness and to be witnessed, to deepen our commitment to the path for folks sitting in iGroups and men's groups. I know I am here because I believe in the power of this work and the transformation that happens when we show up fully. Open hearts, open minds, open hands. So as you sit there, consider to yourself, why are you here? And then ask yourself again, why am I here? And then ask yourself a third time, no, really, why am I here? So may this gathering be a place for renewal. May the fire of the purpose burn bright, lighting the way for more of our siblings to sit in circles, stronger, more vibrant, more alive. May we hold each other with strength and tenderness, challenging each other to grow, supporting each other to rise. We are here together in the mission of the Mankind Project to create a safer world by growing better men. In this space, may we lean into our responsibilities for the future of humanity. May we step forward with courage and humility, embodying emotional maturity, spiritual awareness, and deepening community. May this summit be a beacon. May the work that we do here ripple outward, touching our families, our communities, and in many cases, my hope is this country. May we be people who act with integrity, who love fiercely, who nurture and protect, and who hold each other accountable. May this be a space where we remember our vision, a world where men stand as brothers, where conflicts find resolution in peace, where violence and destruction give way to healing and hope. May we stand tall and proud, secure in our roles, deeply committed to one another, to our shared humanity, and to our shared planet. Blessings to all of us for showing up. Blessings to all of us for stepping into this work. Blessings for us being here. And take a deep breath. And I'm in.
Thank you, Tyrone. So I'm going to share a video to kind of set the tone. Let's see. There you go.
Where are the men who define themselves not by being in opposition to the things they deplore, but by aligning themselves with the things they adore? Men whose actions and words know no contradiction. Please speak among us. Come forth and teach among us. Help the lost of us find those precious moments of clarity that last a lifetime. Where are the men with enough self-awareness to admit when they're wrong without someone else first having to bring it to their attention? Strong yet humble enough to say the words, "I'm sorry," even when no personal gain will be obtained from doing so. The kind of men I'd like to know and aspire to be. With a righteous sense of purpose, loving deeply on purpose, far from perfect. Nevertheless, a willing work in progress, with the best of intentions. The strength of their convictions make them formidable to foes, even when their vulnerabilities are exposed. Initiating public displays of affection in broad daylight, wearing smiles on their faces so big and so bright, they cast shadows on the sun. Where are the men with open hearts and open arms that extend to large open palms fitted with powerful fingers perfectly suited for carrying the dreams of their children? Men that begin their days in meditation, giving salutations to the morning sun. When the going gets tough, he refuses to run, willing to sacrifice his freedoms for the liberation of others, taking great pride in being the keepers of their brothers. Wide-eyed men with panoramic perspectives focused on nourishing humanity's collective. Blessed with beautiful minds that can see beautiful ways to combine spoken words into phrases that remind us all just how glorious life is and encourages us to live better. Where are the men, the fathers, sons, husbands, friends, brothers, cousins, and next of kin that respect and defend the divinity of feminine virtues, appreciative of the fact that without she, no he could be given birth to? So he cherishes not only his mother, but every mother, Mother Nature and Mother Earth too. Wise men who value spiritual abundance more than a pocket full of hundreds. At one with his fellow man, always willing to lend his hand to uplift the downtrodden. Find them holding prayer vigils for those that have been forgotten, or protesting in the streets the unwarranted brutality of police, shouting no justice, no peace, more beauty, less beast. We listen when they speak, and their guidance I seek. Because at just 12 years old, I was told to be the man of the house. See, my biological wasn't around. He was somewhere strung out on cheap wine and hard times, yeah, same old song. Those inner city blues led to the same old wrongs. And they say the sins of the father will surely curse their sons. So we live by their swords and we die by their guns. But I refuse to be a victim or act like a criminal. Instead, I choose positive, powerful, masculine rites of passage rituals that'll make me a better man, possibly even a role model for other like-minded, big-hearted men to model. And then we will be the answer to the question which led. When asked, where are the men? Here we are. Here we stand. Here I am, is what is said.
Thank you. Yeah, I facilitate the men's work intro and share that video. It's pretty powerful. And also, I want to acknowledge that it is February 1st, first day of Black History Month here in the United States. And with that being said, I invited some guests here. Dan Baldwin in the room. And we have Boyson. Yeah. All right. So Boyson and then David Marshall. So I'm gonna spotlight you guys. And Tyrone, can you help me out? Spotlight.
Sure thing.
So, there's Dan. And let's get Boyson in here. I see him.
I got Boyson.
And then David Marshall.
Nice background, Dan. That's cool.
All right, where's David?
Got him.
Got him. Thank you. All right, man. Floor is yours. What's going on with MKP USA?
Ooh, can I go, Boyson? Can I go?
You go. I have slides as usual,
Awesome.
and David can do.
Mine's quick.
Cool.
Well, I just want to piggyback on where the men are. Where are the men? And there's three goals that I'm leaning into from all the different roles, and a lot of the circles are following through, and I hope the I group circle leans into this as well. So goal number one, more men in more circles, in more places, and I'm going to add in more ways. And there are so many ways that we can create men's groups, not just I groups, but men's groups, and in so many places. And here's a vision of some of the things that are yet to come that I believe that are coming. My goal, I want to birth 100 men's circles this year. Wouldn't that be cool? We have 22 areas. If each did about 5, but even if each area did 2 to 3, or even did 1, I've been tracking this, and we've been fairly stagnated across the board over the last 10 years. And COVID didn't help us. Us having to stop due to the intercultural issue around cultural appropriation. But I'm feeling it, man. The newcomers that are coming are more passionate than I've ever seen before. They're the future leaders of our world, the future leaders of MKP. So more men in more circles. Imagine this. More elder wisdom circles in every community center, assisted living community across the nation. More young warrior circles across all the college campuses and where young men congregate. More LGBTQ circles, more men of color circles, more Latino circles, more disability or challenged warriors or otherly abled circles. More indigenous circles. I know we can do this. What we need in order to do that is any one of you men here in this room have the skills to go out and birth a men's circles if you wanted to. I'll support. If we have facilitators, the marketing, the where to go out and hit the streets and bring people and share what we got. Men who are willing to take that hero's journey to risk going out and saying, hey, ever heard of men's work? Here, let me give you a little bit of a lay down of what men's work is. What do you like about that? What interests you? What's your interest level? Great, come and join me in circle. Simple as that. Conversation. You went and did that with 20 strangers. How many would most likely have some little lead into the going it, and then different places where we can market it to or start. But the main thing is facilitation. I believe of our graduate, there's probably hundreds of men that are not sitting in circle because in their local area, it doesn't fit for their time, nor the distance that they have to go. I'd love a great group of people here that are willing to start a virtual I group in every area to have a virtual I group for we reach out to these men. We're starting a new virtual I group. We're going to support you and help you. And let's birth a bunch of men of already grads that are out there that are just waiting and wanting to be more connected with us and haven't even thought about it. Said, yeah, man, maybe it is time to reconnect. When we have different circles that we can run now with different energy, it's just not the old the same. We have the mission focused I groups from the gold mining. We have circle and men groups, which focuses a little bit more on support and creativity and sharing in king versus warrior and doing a lot of intense work, regressive work. There's more ways that we can do it and attract more people. Different people have different needs in the circles that they're in. Let's meet their needs and still continue the work. And in fact, let's expand the energy that we can do in MKP. Be innovative, engaging, and growing. So that's my number one goal. My number two goal is diversity. And that piggybacks on that, and that we were going to be launching a ways for men to say, hey, I'm a man of color or a man of disability, and I would like to connect with other people and have resources that are like me, or LGBTQ, or Challenge Warriors, for again, all those groups, Latino elders and young warriors. But we're going to need facilitators and people that are willing to step up to help support those groups. That'll be created out of that as well. So please, if you can, I'm asking you to lean in. And then the final one is having more resources in abundance than ever before, so we can improve our ITs and really support our volunteers and our groups better than we ever had before with our limited resources. And that is, all men in all circles are all in for membership. All men in all circles. That's the campaign we did. We've created 250 new, raised our, got renewals. So some people do, check out a little bit, but we have over 250 since October in our numbers. And it's growing every day. I see it come on in. Other person supporting the cause, and the amounts they're giving is great, but I want to get to 3,000. That's my goal. 3,000. And I know that they're out there, if with your support, that this is the new culture. It's no longer a culture of invitation. It's a culture of expectation, that membership is expected as a person who's sitting in circle anywhere, staff, facilitators, this circle, everywhere, board members, leaders. We've already got 100% this year because of a commitment of expectation that all full leaders, co-leaders, certified men, ritual elders, and GRC men are all members now. I want us to get their back. They're doing it. We should do it as well. Everybody should do it. There's that should. It's expected. It would be a good thing. Please make it so. Those are my 3 big goals from MKP, and I look forward to, there's so many cool things. The I group, you'll hear about it through this whole discussion. If you stay around, man, there's some cool stuff that's going to be presented. I'm just going to tell you that. Cool stuff. We're talking about pit development, staff development, first time ever that coming on, and the pit council. There's more cool things coming on with pit. We'll be talking about the National Scholarship Fund. There's just good stuff coming. Societies and what they're doing. Please stick around. I'm complete with that. I'm going to hand that up to you, Boyson or David.
David, why don't you go next? Because I'm gonna actually piggyback into both of you.
Okay, cool. Yes. So I took this position over almost 2 years ago, and yeah, it was a difficult time. It was post-COVID and post the cultural misappropriations, and things were a little bit tight. And I'm happy to say that over this past year, we have been rebuilding a bit. As Dan mentioned, memberships are up. They are rejuvenating. A huge, huge shout out to him and Sultani Trip and the callers for the hours, the incredible hours that they're putting in to get membership and bring men in. The huge shout out to our area finance coordinators who have been managing the budgets, and almost every area this year was running a surplus for 2024. But the books aren't closed yet. I can't, nothing's final, but it's looking very good. There are also almost all trainings have been meeting their budget. We did for 2024, we asked that the areas raise their recommended tuition for an NWTA from the old $695 that had been in place for years to $750. And many came through, and we're breaking even and doing a little bit better on the returns on that. We're also getting a very nice increase in donations. There's a chart that we keep track of in Organization and Development Circle for donations over $1,000. 2022, 2023, the list was pretty slim. 2024, we saw a a very nice increase in that. So men are stepping up and supporting the program. And what's that going to do? That's going to help us stabilize our infrastructure. I'm sure we've all had our issues with MKP Connect, and we'd like to see that work a little bit better. And we have, many other goals that we would like to modernize ourselves and step up to that. And it's looking good, looking better. It's not a time for, to just, go shopping. I mean, we still have to be prudent. We're a small nonprofit, but we're much more comfortable, much more secure than we were a year ago. And that has me very happy. And I am in with that. And of course, I'm always available for any specific questions on your area.
Should we take oh, Dan just disappeared. Dan just came off pin. There we go. Should we take a little space to have, if there are questions, you can throw questions into the chat for sure. If you have specific questions for David or for Dan, please feel free to throw questions into the chat and we can come. We do have a little bit of time here, and I'll let a breath or two pass before I launch a slideshow. Cool.
Yeah, I think Dan and I are still here. We're just not pinned
Yeah,
because
you're
of
just here,
you're
not
doing
pinned.
the slideshow.
So I am going to share. Thank you. I'm Boysen Hodgson. If you don't know who I am, I occupy a bunch of roles in the Mankind Project USA, and one of the roles that I occupy is the lead for the Lead Organizational Circle, which is kind of the big circle that contains the other kind of groups and circles and functional stuff and operational stuff and all of the different things that we're doing, including finance and administration, which David Marshall leads the finance and administration circle, and Dan Baldwin leads core circle leadership, which contains all the constituency groups, all of the buy and for groups, and I group, and a lot of the stuff that's going on. So that's who I am. And I'm going to walk through. So I'm going to actually do a little bit of numbers from Lead Organizational. So last year, and I'm going to start with NWTA stuff. Last year, we did 58 new warrior training adventures. We had 1,211 new brothers join us last year. We had a 22 average for the NWTAs that we did. This year, we have 54 NWTAs scheduled. We have 8 specialized trainings scheduled. So buy and for weekends like Men of Color weekends, GBTQ weekends, Challenged Warrior weekends, the barrier free. So we have a lot. There's a Young Warrior training adventure coming, first time since 2018 that we've done a Young Warrior training adventure. So that's kind of what's happening. In 2024, we did 48 different online trainings. 864 men came through one of our online training offerings, be it the Men's Work Intro or Intro to Conflict Resolution or Unpacking Power, Privilege, and Difference. Everything that's in our catalog is on the mkpusa.org website. If you haven't taken a browse through just everything that's on offer in terms of training programs and where men can engage, it's laid out like if you've never participated in men's work, and then through the NWTA, and then all of the men's group trainings that we offer, and then all the additional trainings and leadership trainings, and then our affiliate trainings are offered there. And last year, in-person trainings, we did 47 in-person trainings. So this is like ST1s and LT1s and GUTS trainings, and some primary integration trainings with 674 men going through those. So back to something that Dan said, growing circles, there's a lot of ways for men to engage. There's a lot of different ways to do things. And yeah, I'm just going to keep going from there. Other things, this kind of reflects what David Marshall was just talking about. So because of some unique circumstances, because of some legacy gifts that came in, because of some things that happened, we had a very good year for fundraising last year. That doesn't mean that this is going to repeat this year, but as David said, like, we're in a pretty good position organizationally. And I just went and grabbed, as Dan was saying, on our membership. So right now, as of this past week's organizational development circle, 2,488 members. And I, again, want to shout to Sultani Tripp and Sid Liebenson and all of the callers. 11,000 calls last year. Outreach to guys who've just gone through the New Warrior Training Adventure, outreach to Warrior Brothers all over the country. If you are new or unfamiliar, all of Mankind Project USA's financials are publicly available and on our webpage. So we have our audited financial statements, and our 990 is published and public since 2010 on our website. And Candid, which is a kind of monitors nonprofit organizations across the United States, we have the highest certification for transparency available as a nonprofit organization for how we share information and what we do. I'm going to talk from a marketing standpoint and what we get, how we're getting seen out there. So the Mankind podcast, if you have never listened to the Mankind podcast, and there's another really good podcaster in the room today, Andy Grant. I'm going to shout to Real Men Feel for Andy Grant, who's an award-winning podcaster sitting in the room with us. Mankind podcast, we're now at 189 episodes. We're getting over 5,000 downloads a month, 187,000 downloads, and over 100 5-star reviews for our podcast. I'm just going to say a specific thing we did this week. We got together with Stefan McKenzie, who is a co-leader, and Mike Patterson, who's a leader trainer and co-leader. And we recorded an episode of the podcast. Brandon Clift, myself, and those two gentlemen recorded a podcast called Integrating Transformative Experiences, which we are going to trim down and break up into sections and videoize so that we have a thing for the Sunday packets for guys who are going through a New Warrior Training Adventure, or for guys who are just joining your iGroup, or for guys who are attending primary integration training, to say, okay, here's some big red flags, here's some green flags, here's some things you should do, here's some things you should watch out for when you're integrating any kind of big transformative experience into your life. It was a really fun recording that is going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. We continue to be growing on all the social media platforms. I have plans in place, which I'll touch on in next slides, about what we're going to be adding to how we show up out there online. And then inquiries. So talking about what comes through mankindprojectusa.org, we're around 7,500 new users a month on the website. We are getting about 280, somewhere between 250 and 300 new inquiries a month. That's somebody filling out a form, a guy filling out a form. That's like a 3.8% conversion, which is pretty good for a website. And about 70%, so here's direct to you guys, about 70% of the men who come to us and fill out a form looking for something in the Mankind Project are looking for a men's group. We have places in this country where we have absolutely great access for men, where we can say, cool, come on in, here you go, here's the guy to talk to, let's get you connected to an open men's group, let's get you connected to an iGroup that welcomes visitors, let's get you integrated into the community. We have other places in the country where that is not happening. So in terms of the way Dan is looking at goals and the way we are looking at goals, more men and more circles in more places, there's opportunities for us to directly engage with more men and bring more men into community. And we have to stretch. We have to create ways and places where men can access our groups and to make it easier for them to get connected, to make it easier for them to come into the fold. And we have regular running Google Ads program because of our nonprofit status. So we are doing about 600 click-throughs. So if you search for Men's Group, just about anywhere in the United States, you're going to find the Mankind Project, and you're going to find some of the other organizations that are out there. I'm going to talk about what things that are already as projects, listed as projects on dashboards, things that are being worked on right now. So you heard David Marshall talk about our technology infrastructure. So we are working with a number of folks, including some outside consultants, a whole bunch of new Warrior Brothers who are kind of coming in to lean in on what are we doing next with the MKP Connect system. So we are going to be moving from the technology stack we've been using, which has been based on Drupal, which is an old content management system, into a WordPress environment, which is a much easier to work with content management system, continuing to use Civi, which is our underlying customer relationship management CRM. So a lot of the events management and stuff. Moving from a box on a shelf, so a dedicated server, into cloud servers, creating additional opportunities for marketing integration through our main platforms, creating APIs, which are ways that other apps can interact with us through calls directly into our database, developing apps. So mobile first, you'll see something else come up in the next slide. Additional opportunities for communications, additional opportunities for community development through new systems or rejuvenated systems, and additional support for event administration. That would include primary integration trainings. That will include additional services and support for iGroups and for open men's groups to be able to know who's coming, be able to take a look at what are your trends over time, be able to take a look at how do you bring new men into your iGroups? How do we understand how well we're doing with iGroups? How do we understand our quality of iGroups? You'll see more about that. MankindProjectUSA.org is being rebuilt. I have a wireframe that's already in place. I have a WordPress developer. I have a designer. I have 2 copywriters. I have a project manager. We are developing new funnels that are going to come in on the top funnels, meaning somebody's first point of contact with us, free stuff that they can get and do. Like we know every time I'm on Facebook, right? I'm getting offers for new things. Take this little quiz, get this free download, get these things. There's a lot happening over there, which is very exciting. And it's going to streamline. It's going to make our websites more responsive. Again, mobile first. Internal, if y'all know Scotty Krabler, Scotty is a wonder kid with Google and has been learning a lot and also teaching and bringing more Google tools into what we're doing in the organization. That's going to continue. We are a Google for Nonprofits user. Google is very generous about what they offer to nonprofit organizations. And we are already doing amazing stuff with Google Sheets, with integration through Google App Scripts. So we're going to continue to expand that, and that'll also provide some more opportunities for your iGroups to be able to stand up things and manage things on your own through a centralized system. More men and more circles and more places and spaces. Here's the quadrants that I look at projects through. Make it mobile, make it simple, make it automated, make it delightful. So the things that I'm working on in the projects that you were seeing there, these are the ways that I'm thinking about everything that we're doing. Every company is an IT company. Every nonprofit organization is an IT company. On some level, how we develop technology helps us fulfill our mission, but then the work happens in our circles. So let's get the technology handled so that it gets out of the way so that we can bring men into our groups and be with them where the love is, where the open heart is. Tyrone Marsh, that was an incredible opening. I had tears in my eyes, and I want the technology out of the way so that we can do more of that. together. Other directions, other things that I'm watching and supporting. There's a link here that I will provide to anyone who's here. I have 3 different areas that are looking at pulling together social media and video teams of men to create more content for getting us out into the world. I have developed resources for if you have a guy who's really good with an iPhone, or you have a guy who's a professional video guy or photographer in your area, connect him to me so that I can get him in touch with other people about, hey, what do we show? There's a lot we can show. There's a lot more that we can share about who we are and what we do. I am concerned about support services. So how we improve staff in our role support, how we increase effectiveness and satisfaction. And that's, we're all kind of customers of the Mankind Project as well as participants of the Mankind Project. So how can we collaborate and support one another and create more delight in the ways that we interact? Lead organizational circle. Our structure is not really that complex, but it seems complex when you first start to look at it. And this was true for me. It was confusing. It was hard to wrap my head around. My intention is to continue to simplify, continue to reduce the number of roles so that things are easier to see, things are easier to interact with, update our org chart, and increase communications and collaboration all across the project. So those are some of the things that I'm looking at in terms of where we go. Earned media, that means people write about us. We have stories to tell again. And when we tell our stories, people come see us differently. People want to be connected to us when we tell our story, and it's up to us to tell our stories. More men and more circles in more places. Dan brought this beautifully into the spotlight. We have a lot of open men's groups. We want more. This aligns point by point to the strategic plan that was worked on for over 2 years through listening sessions all across the Mankind Project. When I think about more men and more circles in more places, I also think about some descriptors, more integrated men. So how are we supporting our I groups to create spaces where men really get the kind of integration, emotional, spiritual, physical, mental integration that they're looking for in their lives? How do we work with circles to create more high quality circles so that we really know that we are firing on all cylinders in our groups and creating more leadership and creating more invitation? And I think about diversity in terms of places and spaces. So where are we not out there in the United States? Where are we not showing up? And I'll speak to New England, right? We have our circle in Holyoke, Massachusetts. I don't have a circle in Springfield, Massachusetts. Why not? What's in the way? What are the obstacles that I could move so that we are in more diverse spaces and places out there? And I think that there are ways in which that, as a way of thinking about our diversity, changes the picture. Then it's about me making myself available and working with other people to create more diverse places for us to show up. Initiation plus integration. This is something else that is rolling out, as you all know. I'm guessing that you all know by now. The primary integration training is now included in the cost of the New Warrior Training Adventure. So that means a couple of different things. That means that men who are going to the New Warrior Training Adventure, hopefully out of your open men's groups and out of your invites to your integration groups, they are coming from community, going through their initiation and coming back into the community for integration. Men can participate in the primary integration training at any time after they complete the New Warrior Training Adventure. And that includes last year and the year before and the year before that. So there's an opportunity for us to reach back out into our communities, to those guys who are sitting in circles and those guys who may not be sitting in circles, to say, hey, here's an opportunity. We're doing another primary integration in a couple of months. Come participate. Do it as a hybrid, do it through the online, do it as a weekend intensive, do it as a 8 to 10 week in-person training over time. There's an opportunity for us to up-level our game as a community and to give men more skills, more tools, and more integration in their lives. So this flyer that's on the page here, this is available through the Marketing Downloads Google Drive, which is linked in MKP Connect in multiple places. Search for Marketing Downloads, and you can get that flyer. Overall strategy, what happens for groups in the community if we set goals and measure outcomes for building and supporting men's groups? And the rinse and repeat is engage and connect effectively with men who are coming to us, grow and launch more groups in more places, nurture our leadership and our integration within our groups, build the membership culture, all in, get us all in. Measure our engagement, something that we've rarely done, right? How many guys do we have in circles? How many guys are coming to our circles regularly? Who's coming and then dropping off? What can we do about that? Who's coming and then missing? What can we do about that? Create broader recognition for who we are, become known entities, right? In our cities and our communities. Oh yeah, there's that men's group that these guys go to. Harness that engagement and go back to the top. Engage and connect effectively, grow and launch more groups. And that is the last slide. And I also want to show you, because I love that Where Are the Men video. This is the family that created that video. This is Renee and Akira Chan and their son. He was not born when they made that Haim Dunbar video. And Haim Dunbar, that's what he actually looks like in real life when you get him on the phone. I recorded a video with him 8 years ago. I'll share the link to this video into the thing. 17-minute little interview. What a beautiful man. What a glorious, shiny, bright man. So another opportunity to hear from that guy who did the Where Are the Men video. And I will stop sharing there. And thank you very much for your attention.
I was hoping that we could do 2 real quick feedback processes on this. Tyrone, do we have time for it?
Yes.
And I do see we have a hand raised, so I do want to honor the hand raise always. So let's start with that. Federico, you got your hand raised. What's up?
Federico. He's looking for his mute. He found it.
Boyson, I just had a quick question. First of all, thank you for showing the slides and the statistics. I really appreciate that. You know, I like numbers. It works for me, so thank you. But I'm curious, how should we interpret, especially the one where you show statistics on engagement or activity or how many men, you know, reach out to us? What's your thought about the size of the organization we are and what activity we see? And should we feel great about that, or it's better than nothing, but we'd like to double or triple it? How do we interpret those to know we're super satisfied or no, there's a call to action?
There's a call to action for me, and the gap that I see, we're doing well. We're doing well. I love us. And the gap that I see is we've got almost 300 new guys knocking on our door every month. And there's not a huge percentage of those guys who are actually getting connected and into relationship with us. That's the gap that we want to fill. And with what Dan was talking about, that is how we fill it, is by creating more opportunities for men to be in circle with other men. That'll fill the new warrior trainings. If we have this going, trainings will fill themselves.
I have some numbers for perspective as well. All those numbers, the 1,211 new brothers, that's in comparison to 1,900, which we had a year
2019.
In 2019. So we're still coming back, but we're nowhere near 2019. Membership, we were close to 3,000 prior 2019. We are coming from an all-time low of 2250, rising up to 2500, want to get back to that 3000. So we are still hurting from the pandemic, and we're getting more interest than we ever had before. I will tell you that. The number of people that are interested has gone up in our organization, but the conversion to actually sitting into Circle or conversion into how many NWTA grads we're doing is not being done successfully as well as we could be. And that's where we need more men and more circles, or more places to engage them and more places to invite them. Because we get leads, but we don't have any closing, which is the closing is when they fall in love with men sitting in Circle.
Yeah.
I do know more men are sitting in Circle prior to doing the weekends though. So we are
Yes.
increasing a little bit that, and that's huge for retention. And that's, you know, that's where some of those numbers are going up, because people are sitting in Circle and falling in love before they do the weekend and they're already committed. So we want to keep that up.
Thank you. Yes.
May I ask a follow-up or not? Or not?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it was a good one. Yeah.
I'm curious, you mentioned we have 3,000 members. How many men do we have involved in iGroups total?
We have 790 iGroups. We want to increase that by 100 by next year. Of the 790, we average about 8 maybe in each iGroup across the board is what we're estimating. So there's no way for us to measure this because iGroups do not keep their censuses up to date on how many men are in iGroups. I'd say that's 50% of it happening. Some areas do well, a lot of them don't. And so, you know, we're just guessing around, you know, 5,500 people that we're able to reach, maybe 6,000, of which we've had 2,500 be members.
There you go.
Thank you. And so the last thing I'll ask, and then I promise I'll be quiet, is
That's great.
would our approach change if our objective was not 3,000 members, that might be break even, let's call it, or 6,000 active iGroup engagements. But what happens if we just think we want 3 times that number, 4 times that number? Would our approach change in any way?
In some ways, yes. So we've been working on for 10 years the 10x model, where we in the nonprofit curve, there, we hit a threshold where there's a time for a jump from where we're at to 10x. But you have to have the, and we were about ready to move into that in 2019,
Close.
right when COVID hit. So it put us way back, and we don't have the resources, and we're still back on our heels around resources, but we're doing the best we can. And then, yes, we want to be able to move into a, we do this and invest this much, we're going to get a return on investment 5x back model.
And in IT strategy and development, I am thinking in those terms, Federico, for sure. What kind of systems would we need to have in place and build if we experienced that kind of a hockey stick growth?
Wonderful. Thank you for your time.
So there are a
So
couple
the
of questions. Go ahead, Dan.
Okay, I was just wanting to do a feedback loop
that's a
real
good
quick, and it's a real
question, Paul.
simple one, and then we'll go to questions if that's all right. This is use the chat box. Me and David and Boyson just spoke. Like you just to take a moment and type in a couple words or a sentence on what was well on what we did, inspiring, or what hit you, and then we'll do that, and then I'll do the second one. So this will only take a minute. So just take a moment and type in something. What inspired you? What's important? What did we do well?
Thanks, Dan.
And put it in the chat. That way we can capture it too and improve. And then the second one, for those of you who are done with that, take a moment. You guys sit in a role, a unique role. We
Thank
talked
you.
a lot of stuff. What problems or ooh shinies that we could create or address to help you in your role? As iGroup coordinator, what is your number one thing? What are the constraints that are getting in? What are the things that could help you in your role as an iGroup coordinator? I need this tool. I would like more of this, or I'd like to see more of this. That's the second question in there. And whenever you feel appropriate, Tyrone, go ahead and push the button on the questions. That's just what I wanted to do.
Nice. Good stuff in the chat. Thank you, Dan. Well done.
So a couple of questions see here. Have the discussions around cultural appropriation ended? How did we and the Native American advisors feel about the outcome?
Want me to take that, Boyson?
Yeah, please.
How do we feel about the outcome, and who's the they we're talking about? There's still
Yeah,
many
who's the
sides
we,
to
who's the
this
they? Yeah.
complex question. There's a lot of theys in here. And I would say overall, there are nobody that's happy with the complex subject. It's really hard. There's a lot of pain. And a lot of sadness and a lot of grief that needs to be gone through. When it comes to the end state of where we're at with no longer putting rocks on water, there's still many people that are uncomfortable with that and would like to see it return. And there's still a lot of people that are upset too around that we didn't do enough around cultural appropriation. So it's a mixed bag across and an internal conflict across. I think we're at a good middle point that allowed us to proceed forward, because that was our goal, is what could we do given all these different perspectives and all the internal fighting and divisiveness in MKP? Where could we land that we could start the NWTAs back up again that was safe enough to try? And I think that what we created, most stakeholders are comfortable with understanding, and each one of us have our own different bias, that this is probably the best we could do given how complex the situation is. And we're all greatly aware of how much pain and all the validity in all the sides, except for one, that there were, we will all say that there was mean things said that were, just many of them were done as a tactic to get us to shut down. The tactics that were employed, were done after frustration for a long time, but nevertheless, they were employed. There was a lot of disrespect done, and arguing about that in the public listservs would probably not serve us very much or very well. The focus is let's get back to initiation. Let's get back to introducing men to the work, and can we do it good enough? And we're doing that, and we're celebrating that, and we're growing a large GNR group of people that are willing to do what they're doing right now. So I think there's a lot to be celebrated as well in this difficult conflict. And I'm happy to talk to any man about the complexity of it. Call me individually.
Thank you. Another question. Who are our main competitors for men's groups or men's growth?
I'll take that one. It's fun. I know pretty much everybody in this, not everybody in the space. I'm not going to claim that. I know a lot of the players in the space and actually have relationships with most of them. So that question I noticed came from Chicago. So Men Living came out of Chicago. Sean, one of the founders there, I'm connected to. A bunch of the men connected to Men Living are also MKP guys. Everyman, again, Owen Marcus, original founder, that came out of the Sandpoint men's groups, Sandpoint, Idaho, MKP guy. Several other MKP guys. They've gone through some changes. I've met with their new CEO a couple of months ago, met him in person in New York City, had some follow-up with him. Great. There's all kinds of men's work out there. Sacred Sons is another organization that's doing some stuff. I know some of the guys who have been connected to that organization. They are cross-fertilizing with other organizations. Again, there's overlap. There's MKP guys who are over there, and there's Sacred Sons guys who are over here. All of them have a different flavor. All of them are serving slightly different demographics. And what I would say, and I started saying this back in 2015, that we are the 700-pound gorilla. We've been around longer. We have way more scale. We have way more scope. We have way more infrastructure. The organizations that are out there that I love and building relationships with through ongoing projects and connection, they're the size of South Central. They're the size of an area. And that's kind of where they're playing. And I want to keep playing with them. And as Don Huff said in chat, right? These are collaborators on some. They're collaborators and competitors. We don't have to fight with them.
Another question. What do we offer around spiritual awareness? It's in our mission.
What do we offer around spiritual awareness? So I think that's a great question. I think we need to better define what we mean by spiritual awareness. And I'll ask this as a question and give you my answer to it. When you sit in a men's group, or when you participate in a New Warrior training adventure, or when you get together with our brothers, do you experience the sacred? Do you experience a transcendent sense of there is something bigger than me happening in this room right now? And there is something bigger in the connection that we share. I think that there's more work that we could do to play with that. I think there's more that we could integrate into our regular kind of teaching and processes that would hone in on that better. But spiritual awareness to me means I'm aware of something way bigger than myself at work. And I experience that every time I sit in circle.
I would say if you're interested in wanting to play there, the best place to go is to the GNR gathering. We are practicing and talking and having conversations around what is a container that holds more than just the to-do, basically, the hollowed space of the not I. And how do we do that, and how do we share our different forms of spirituality without it being dogma or league processing, and do it in a psychically safe way? And there's a language to that. There's a language to not leading people or affirming that this is one thing, and there's a way to get consent and buy-in prior to introducing spiritual concepts, which can be very, very different for each different person that's showing up. So definitely a lot of room to play with that. And again, if you're interested in playing that, I'm looking for other people that like to play with that, and because it's a hobby of mine, and I'd like to, so you can consider me as somebody to go to. Yeah, Dan, I want to play. Let's do something with that. I'd be happy to play with that too for MKB.
All right, Mike, over to you.
Any other questions? Running out of schedule. So, thank you, man. And one thing they don't tell you, what these guys don't tell you, is that they are, in my judgment, underpaid for all the hours that they do, the lack of benefits and things like that. And that's where this money will hopefully help doing that, because these guys do a lot of work, and I judge most of it because they love the work, and love to get them at least paid at a market rate. And but they didn't tell you that, so I'm going to say that.
Thank you.
And yeah, any other questions for these men before we're a little ahead of schedule? Any questions for these men before? Yeah.
I do see one other question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where are we on the Warrior Formal during NWTAs?
Cool.
Ooh, good question.
Right now we are in analysis. So the New Warrior training adventures, there were a number through the fall where they were collecting feedback data from staff members, from leaders, from participants. And that is sitting with the U.S. Leader Body Circle right now. It's going to be a topic of discussion at the upcoming U.S. Leader Body meeting in February, and then those men will come back to the organizational circle and also to the board of the Mankind Project USA to have some additional conversation before we make any final decisions about where we're headed and what's happening next. That's what I got.
I have a question, somebody put in the chat, Michael Baldwin, no diversity resources exist on the website. Now, Dan, you mentioned you were doing some work around that in terms of men identifying themselves with a particular group. Is that right? Where did Dan go? Baldwin?
He's
He
here.
went on mute. He went on mute. Okay.
There you go.
So,
Oh, there you go.
we're fairly close to being able to launch what we're going to launch. And what it is the ability for, we're going to first focus on the internal, the graduates. How can graduate get resources and connection and really empower them to connect and, create things for them by them. So a support of all those different identity groups where they have a resource page. People can say, yes, I want to receive communications. There's an automatic response that tells them all the things that are going on in the project that relate to their identity group and who to contact about that. So that's really, really a great thing. We will be elevating probably the intercultural advocate, used to be an intercultural advocate, that's been changing to intercultural competency and belonging circles resource page, which has a lot of resources on videos to watch and videos libraries, the 4 basic skills we're trying to promote for intercultural competency, and some new stuff that we're in the works of producing as well. So definitely I took my 3 goals of more men and more circles and more diversity, and I'm taking in the project. I want to say Tyrone Marsh in the room. Him and Max Freund are the leads for the intercultural competence and belonging. We meet and do a heck of a lot of work, and I've already produced a lot of stuff. There's a great place to go on the intercultural competency and belonging resource page, which celebrates all that we've been doing in the last year and a half, where you can actually see a lot of the celebrations and all the activities that are happening. Again, we hope to elevate that page for people to be able to see it really well, so that you can take a look and celebrate with us, like the Brotherhood Front Porch that just and the Day of Racial Healing that just had 2 weeks ago. So there you go.
Erwin, I see your
Thank you.
hand. Erwin, you're on mute.
Are we okay now?
Yes, hear you.
Okay, so one of my concerns is the idea of intercultural and diversity. And we have these workshops where it's just for Black men, and we have it for white with once in a while, 1 or 2 Black men coming in. It seems to me the way to get more intercultural diversity is to have weekends where Black and whites go together. Where else can we get to know each other better, what our differences are, and what our problems are, without going through a weekend together where there's more bonding and more trust and more sharing than when we have Blacks and whites together. I would like to see more of that happening, so that this intercultural diversity would be a reality, not Black workshops and white workshops. That's it.
Yeah, I've been in the intercultural competency, whatever they want to say it. Every 5 years they change the language on it. And what you're talking about is they often mention stage 1, 2, 3, and 4 levels of learning and levels of interaction. And I don't think our NWTA, the way it is set up and designed to create intercultural safety and going into the subject of it. And I would think that what comes to mind, Erwin, is creating an experiential experience or the intention of specifically around race, because when we talk about isms and intercultural, there's many different polarizations there or differences that can be addressed. But what you're talking about specifically was about white and men of obviously African American descent,
Right.
and or men of color. an experience where they come together and have a transformational experience with each other. I do think a training like that probably would be incredible to create, and I hope some people create it.
I'll see about creating something like that.
Be a beautiful thing.
Thank you. All right, Barry.
Just kind of on that subject, I was actually recently at a Sacred Sons event, and the Sacred Sons has been doing men's groups, which are, by the way, you know, I'm not really aware of the history with kind of cultural appropriation, but the Sacred Sons events are very kind of seem to be rooted in a lot of kind of indigenous rituals, et cetera. But this particular event was a Sacred Sons event where women were invited, and and the kind of work that was done in circle, you know, the two groups were separated at first and kind of prepared for, at least in the masculine feminine, you know, kind of we did the work that made us really kind of be in love with the different aspects of the women that could come. Anyway, it was incredibly lovely, and then there was a lot of deep work back in circle between the men and the women, where, you know, the women were allowed to speak their trauma, you know, to the men, and the men were allowed to speak their trauma to the women, and it was safe and beautiful. It was very experimental, so I'd say there's a lot of learning from the perspective of facilitating it. There's probably not a lot of knowledge base in that area, but it was so meaningful, and I just can't say. And Marino, you and I have spoken a little bit about this, you know, where some of what I've gotten so beautifully in my, you know, small experience so far with Mankind Project as a gay man is, you know, being seen by heterosexuals. So what I find most kind of unifying and beautiful about the experience is not being separated with other gay men, but being, you know, kind of being seen by that thing that I fear, you know, that opportunity to speak my trauma and also hear the trauma. But you guys are all, you know, you've been doing this for many years. I'm super excited to kind of, you know, get involved and get more involved. And thank you for everything that you do. I definitely agree with Erwin, and I appreciate everything that you're saying as well, Dan. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. All
Yeah.
right. You have time for one more quick one? If not, we can move to a break. Any quick questions? All right. Thank you, man. So we're going to take a 5-minute break. So please come back at 20 minutes past the hour, and we're going to have some of the program managers talk about next level training to improve circle skills. So please mute yourself, step away from the computer, turn off the video. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
Mike, did you pause recording?
Okay. Recording started. Welcome back, men. And so right now, I had to move some things around. So wait, how many guys do we have here? All right, men are popping in. Okay, so we're going to talk more about the pit a little bit later when George gets here. So, but there are other trainings that we have on board to help improve circle skills. And it can be really confusing on what they are, because there's a lot of acronyms and all that stuff. And so I've invited the program managers for ICR, Mike Barrickman, that stands for Introduction to Conflict Resolution. I've also have Dennis Sturts, who is the program manager for iGroup facilitation training. And I run the program that's called iGroup Leadership Skills Training. And then so Mark, I'm not going to exclude you, so we're going to talk PIT a little bit later. but I want to share my screen just to kind of summarize what these all are. Where is it? All right. Okay, so what do you got? Developing circle skills. This is for the pit right here. I think you can't see it. The pit develops circle skills for men to have a deeper understanding and of certain facilitation and be able to do more work. There's things like accountability is taught, clearance are taught, and we have a variety of formats that Mark's going to hit later. And then we have the IGFT. The focus on that is developing facilitation skills, mostly in the magician round. And that's usually a 3-day course in person or online. And then we have iGroups leadership skills training, where we develop skills to lead and manage the flow of iGroups and the iGroup meetings. And that is only done online, and it's usually 6 weeks, one night of the week for 2 hours and 15 minutes. And so that is the iGroup leadership skills training. So where's Dennis Sturts? You there, brother? I'm gonna put you on first. Maybe raise your hand so I can see you.
In the spotlight him?
Yes, there you go. I see you, Dennis. Yes, can you spotlight Dennis?
Hello,
Yeah.
brothers. Yeah.
Tell us about IGFT.
Did
Come out?
he's
How about
muted.
now?
There you go.
There you go.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Well, let me start again. Thank you, Mike. I would love to talk about MKP. And hopefully with video too. Is it coming through or is my signal bad?
No, you're good. You're good. Yes, tell us about IGFT.
Excellent. Yeah. So IGFT, it's been around, gosh, probably close to 10 years now. And we're just getting what I'd say up and running after the post-COVID break. So last year there were 3 IGFTs in the second half of the year, I believe. We did an in-person IGFT in Ann Arbor. We did an online training. We've got another training coming up in the Heartland. And iGroup training is really an opportunity to take what is somewhat familiar in the sense that you've probably seen it, been around it, looked at it. You may or may not feel comfortable in that space of doing facilitation work. And if you don't, that's okay. And if you do, that's okay too, because wherever you're at, whatever the path, whatever the experience level you have, there's a place to learn and to support others in their learning in IGFT. We often start on Friday. It's an opportunity to connect. We talk about communication, talk about multiculturalism. We talk about a lot of different things before we really get into the processes. And then we spend the next really 2 days looking at 5 processes that have been blessed by MKP as an organization. We've got support for these processes from our insurance companies so that we can use them in iGroup. And we give participants a manual so that nothing has to be memorized. It can literally be read verbatim from a script. And these tools are available for your iGroup to use when you're present. So if you have an interest in facilitation, if you think you're awesome and want to get better, if you think you're clueless and lost and just want to get your feet in the water, look for an opportunity. Like I say, I don't know of one that we have scheduled online right now, but keep an eye open because there will be one sometime this spring. And if you want to come in person, come join us in the Heartland. And we'd love to see you. I'm open to questions.
I've got a
or
question
additional
for you,
feedback.
Dennis.
Yeah.
I have a question, then we'll go with Dawn. So what's the difference between IGFT and GUTS?
Thank you. So GUTS is, in essence, a process involving a regression. It is something that is historically present in the project, and it's something that organizationally we're moving away from. So IGFT is going to talk about the processes that might be seen on a GUTS carpet, but have been vetted in a different way. The work that we do, as you know, as each of us know, can be dangerous. And so these processes have a level of safety that is not necessarily going to be present in GUTS. So GUTS is a wonderful thing. If you want to get into to that level of work, I would encourage men to take additional training. There are some workshops available to really dig into that.
Thank you. And you also mentioned that insurance. So if somebody gets hurt or psychically injured with a GUTS process, insurance is not covered. Is that correct?
Yes. So from an insurance perspective, each eye group may or may not be aware, but there is an insurance coverage for men in eye group when they use the processes that we have vetted through them. And so this IGFT focuses on these. That there are many other processes, many wonderful processes out there, but these 5 are the ones that we've had a blessing that have proven to be safe in the eyes of others. And so if something were to happen, because it can be a physical wounding, it can be psychological wounding, if something were to happen, you as an individual facilitating the work would be covered from whatever litigation might come of that wounding. GUTS is not one of those that are covered or encouraged at this time in eye groups.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Don Huff, your hand's raised.
Oh, yeah, I'm in Dallas, and I was with Boyson, and I was creating a flyer for the Austin community. They're putting together something called IGFP, Eye Group Facilitation Practice for men who've taken it. And they're putting that on for their community in March. Thought that was pretty cool. Just a chance to practice those specific processes, and it's open to new men, men who haven't necessarily taken it, but I thought you might want to know there's something new called IGFP.
That's all. Thank you, Don. It's great to have a place to go, especially for reinforcement purposes. I don't know if that'll be available to others online. There was at one point in time a man who had an online circle to practice IGFT processes as well. And I will look to see if he's still doing that. I don't think they're continuing to do that, but it's good that someone else is. I hope others will do so. It's a wonderful way to reinforce these safe practices.
Thank you. Any other questions for Dennis? So if you want an IGFT training in person in your area, go to your area Stewards Council and lobby for that. And if a lot of men in your area really want to improve their facilitation training, I found it very helpful, especially like things like mindful interruption, some of the other things that are taught in the class. If you want it, just ask your stewardship council, and then they will reach out to Dennis and look for instructors that actually man the training. Did I get that right, Dennis?
You did. And if you just have a passion and you want to reach out online, send me an email and I can tell you who can coordinate that. It's not done through the area.
All right. Thank you. All right, let's bring up Mike Barrickman. Let's see, where are you, Mike? Introduction to conflict resolution. There you are. Spotlight you. All right, ICR.
Thanks,
Tell
Mike.
me about it.
I'm just going to check in for the whole circle first before I get going. I am Mike Barrickman. I'm in Central Florida. Inner Essence Michael. Checking in with Joy. I was expecting Healthy Edge of Fear, but it's just Joy all the way down. So I was initiated in Silver Spring, Florida, October 2019. I am the program manager of the MKP training called Introduction to Conflict Resolution. And the question I want to offer you to consider is, how do you do conflict? Yeah. So imagine approaching conflict from a place of joy. Not because I love a fight, but because I love connection. Through this tool, through my use of it, I'm learning to express myself clearly. I'm feeling heard, and I'm resolving conflict in a powerful way that builds community and connection across difference of experience, difference of perspective, difference of opinion, and difference of the internal messages and stories that we tell ourselves. It's a tool. It's unlike a lot of the other tools in the MKP toolbox, because it's not about I work, or if you're doing I work, what I would call you work. This is we work. We building a collaborative space together to come up with a solution that meets, or at least acknowledges, all of our needs. So, like any tool, it can be used improperly. Like a knife, it can be very useful. It can also potentially cause injury to the user if I get in the way of that tool, or anyone within reach. So a knife with a shiny blade can also reflect light on my image. And this tool can act as a mirror so that I can see myself and my personal work through its use. Leaning into conflict, leaning into my work and we work, the work I can do with another person. It's a great opportunity for growth. And before this tool was introduced to the MKP Toolkit, all we had for conflict resolution was the clearing process. A clearing is not a conflict resolution tool. Done as intended, a clearing is meant to shine a light on my work through my projections. It is not meant to change the person I identify as the trigger of my charge. The Introduction to Conflict Resolution training is a 3 to 3.5 hour interactive co-learning space, and we create that via Zoom with 4 leaders and up to 16 participants. The cost is $95 per person, a price that's discounted with your MKP USA membership. And there are ongoing practice sessions that support the alumni. I want this tool to be known and used by everyone, not just in MKP. I believe that full adoption of this tool would change the world faster than an NWTA changes a man. I want to know how I can bring this to your iGroup and the iGroups in your community. So, Mike, if it works for you, I'd like to open this up to talk and see if men were willing to share their experience around conflict, and if they have conflict in their iGroup.
All right, quick question. Is this a good training for someone like me that used to be a, let's say, recovering conflict avoider?
Yeah. Is it good?
Yeah.
Yes,
well,
because because, okay, so I align with that. And as such, it has given me a structure through which to create my complaint, my observation of what doesn't work for me, and put it in a form that removes my judgment and my projections. It's through data and feelings and what's missing for me. And having that structure just to go away from the conflict and think it to myself gives me so much clarity about that conflict and the safety and bravery to go back into conflict with this way of expressing it. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Don Huff.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Mike, for speaking about that. Makes me a little more excited about taking it, hearing you talk about how it's different. The conflict I've been having with my I group is it was open for 15 years and then they closed it down. And it's not working for me. I can't invite men. And I've been in conflict with the group, you know, at least once or twice a year about it. And I've had to go and leave the group and start another group and attend erratically. And there's not a lot of good conversation around it. It's just like, oh, here he goes again. And yeah. So maybe I'd like to sign up for that class and maybe get some insights on how I can talk differently next time, because I keep doing the same thing and it isn't working. And I don't know.
This is I'm hearing you, Don, and keep doing the same thing. Speaking to that, this has been a way to do something different for me, to restructure my thinking, to restructure my language, to be really interested in the other person's perspective too.
Yeah. Thank you. And I remember when I took the class, you know, the concepts are surprisingly simple. And when you get into it, it's very nuanced. Just like, you know, how I speak to the person, trying to avoid victim language, you know, oh, you made me feel this way, and certain things. It's very nuanced. And I learned a lot when I took it. Anybody else want to share their experience in the class or have any questions for Michael?
I can't see the whole group, but I'm curious that there's so little conflict in I groups, and maybe enough men have gotten this. If there's no conflict, then I could just, you know, go work outside the project. So now I can see all the windows, at least of the video on participants. If you just raise a hand if you've experienced conflict.
Tyrone has his hand up.
Oh yeah, and yeah, I just want to see what else is out there. All right, Tyrone, what you got?
My question is more of an operational question. So I know you spoke about this being an online course. Are there any opportunities for intro to conflict resolution to be a face-to-face? Do you have facilitators to go out and do that?
Yes, I'm so excited. We've done some, not the full training, and there's talk in one area about bringing it in as the full training. I am loving the idea of bringing this to iGroups. And travel makes it cost more. So I really like the idea of getting an iGroup that meets in person, online, for a training that's just for them. And it doesn't have to be the full 3 hours, and we're still talking about how to price that, how to make it work. But I think it's worth sharing. So I want to get that done. And I will say that some of the New Warrior Brothers and I on this communication and connection team that support this training, we're going to be delivering a training to a college campus in New York online, because there's a man from Alberta, myself from Florida, and a man there on the ground. And this is a way that we can get as many people in the room at one time.
Well, I will share with you that in Metro Tri-State, there's a longing for physical connection in space. We've been on Zoom, it feels like forever. And this is great, of course, being able to do this across the country. but as a area or community to dive into conflict resolution face to face, to see your brother face to face, and to feel that energy seems to me would be incredibly impactful. So I look forward to talking with you more about what that could look like, because we would want to bring it here.
Let's do it. Let's talk,
Thank you.
Tyrone.
Michael Baldwin.
Yes, I feel there's so many different aspects to this, because not only is the diversity, but there's also the obviously the huge element of political division right now, which has been a major driving factor I've seen in my I group. And I know other I groups have dealt with it as well in disbanding or fragmenting. And it seems to me that obviously conflict resolution can strengthen these types of environments rather than hiding, repressing, and denying that, and just saying, oh well, we'll just not talk about that. And all that really does is just allow that wound to still exist under a bandage that's not doing anything to resolve it. And so I really see it in my I group too. Okay, we just won't discuss a religion or politics. Really? Is it important to you? Does it matter to you? Are there any feelings and judgments around that guide you? Well, then shouldn't that be included?
Thank you, Michael. I say yes. Let's please include everything that triggers me, because it's a sign of my work. Now, to do it safely, one thing that occurs to me is I've got to look at the man in front of me as not responsible for fixing the problem outside of us, but make an us that can talk about the issue without it becoming, it's all your fault. Thanks. Thanks for hearing that,
Thank
Michael.
you. Jim Post. Jim, you have your hand raised? Jim Post?
It looks like Jim is on the phone.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we can circle back to Jim. All right. Any other questions for Michael Barackman? Okay. All right.
Looks like Jim is done.
Jim Post, you have your hand up. All right. Well, we'll pass there. So thank you, Michael. We'll wait for Jim Post if he's got a question for you. Okay, so I'm going to go next. And so I am the program manager for iGroup Leadership Skills Training. And Paul Barker, do you have a question for Michael Barackman? Unmute yourself and go ahead. I'll wait. Go ahead.
There's just two things. You know, there was what Erwin was talking about, the kind of division between whites and blacks or something, which seems like that would be the conflict resolution paradigm or something could kind of fit in to, you know, handling that sort of thing. I don't know if you know want to branch out, you know, but there was like a red and a blue thing that was going on that the men's group did before, which I participated in. I'm blanking out on
Braver Angels.
Jim Height was
Braver Angels. That's the organization, Braver Angels.
Right.
There's a lot of MKT
exactly.
men.
Braver,
Yeah.
Right, exactly. That would be another resource to bring in to iGroups or whatnot. And also, there was mentioned about facilitation training. There's I don't know. I suppose you're aware that there's a guy that offers this at least once a week, and he has some people in South Africa as well that offer it. And Paul Mellon offers training and doing those 5 processes. And I've gone there a few times to practice the IFGT procedures, and it's really very good. It's free, and everybody gets a chance to facilitate and do work, and I just wanted to give a plug to that. I'm in.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mike.
Keep those skills sharp.
Mike, I want to
Yes.
comment on that. So
Okay.
Paul Mellon is not teaching IGFT. He is one of the men who are offering men who have been through IGFT and apparently men who have not been through IGFT the opportunity to practice. So thanks for putting it out there, but I want to be clear, it is not a replacement for taking IGFT.
Thank you. Good. Just a way to practice your skills. All right. I think
Erwin has a question.
Erwin.
You're on mute, Erwin.
Internet connection is unstable.
Okay.
You're still on mute, Erwin.
Okay. Erwin, can we come back to you when you find the mute button? Give me a thumbs up if you're okay with that. All right. I'm going to go and talk about ICE group leader. Erwin, there you are. Do you have a question for Michael?
Okay, first of all, I want to give an acknowledgement for how organized the training was for conflict resolution. 10 stars. Secondly, in my group a few weeks ago, we had a very vigorous discussion because of impact and intention, which is a big thing between blacks and whites, but it's between the 2 white guys in my group. We have no black guys, and be able to facilitate the impact and the intention, and for men to be able to listen to each other. Thirdly, I would like you to contact me because one of the books that you organized, that you used for your conflict resolution, has some things in it that you don't have in conflict resolution as it is now, and I think they are very valuable. So, Aloff26@AOL.com. Aloff, ALOFF 26, my birthday, AOL.com. I'd like you to
Get that,
talk
Mike?
to.
Okay. All right. Are you complete, Erwin?
Yeah, I'm complete.
All right. Thank you. Okay. All right. iGroup Leadership Skills Training. I signed up for this class back in 2019. We just did the barrier-free NWTA. That's the weekend for men with disabilities. And the staff like, we need to set up an iGroup. And so then they all looked at me and I raised my hand. So I took this class in the fall of 2019 and I met Ira Marsh, who also took the class. We were in the same group together. And it was a course where you get to practice leading iGroups, and this was done online, and you got feedback from everybody else in the group, including facilitators. And so they invited me to be a co-instructor, and then, I kept doing that, and then I was an instructor, and then I took over the program. And so it's a wonderful course. It really goes back to the basics of what skills do I need to have as a leader to lead an iGroup, and talk about, how I model my leadership, how I read the room, shift the energy, and does not cover actual training of facilitation stuff in terms of, how to run an accountability process. And it also does, what it does, it manages the flow, to learn skills on how to manage the flow of the meeting. And the best part about this is that, each person gets a chance to, lead the group, and you get feedback. That's what most of the feedback that I've gotten from the training is, that they love getting the feedback honest feedback about what you did well and what could be some better yets in leading an I group. And so it's usually, basically what we do is have about 12 men, and we split them up, and you actually get a virtual I group for 6 weeks. And so you got some teaching in the beginning, and then you basically run a virtual I group with each participant actually practicing leading a group and then getting feedback at the end. It's a wonderful training, and we've got one on the books. We only do this about once or twice a year, and we have one that's on the books coming in March. So that's a little bit about the I group leadership skills training. Any questions?
Mike, I'm curious. This is basically, this call is a representation of the I group chairs primarily. Is that fair?
Say that question again, because you were an instructor for this as well.
Yeah, my question is this audience that we have assembled here is primarily I group chairs from different areas?
No, it's anybody that's interested in groups, I groups.
Anyone, okay, even better. If you haven't taken it, you should. If the men in your I group haven't taken it, they need to. And I'll tell you why. Because if you don't know how to lead an I group, then I'd venture to say you're not doing a very good job of leading others in your life. So what better safe way to start than with a group of men who have been through an initiation like you and I, and give yourself a safe place to practice. If it's only 2 or 3 times a year now, I would say jump at the chance. And as an I group stretch, I would invite others to make commitments to when they might be willing to take something as well. Every one of these trainings, I would make it a stretch to have everyone in my I group, and I do, take at least 1 training a year from this portfolio, because I group is, in my judgment, the core of my work. These are the people that I see week in and week out, every other week, whatever the case is, whatever that frequency, but they're going to hold my feet to the fire. I can go to an NWTA, I can go here, I can go there, but I group, like healthy I group, that's where it's at.
Thank you. Erwin, or Paul Booker.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I just wanted to give some feedback about that I group leadership training course. Rick, to introduce what it's like to introduce it to a long-term I group. You know, I've been in the same I group for 25 years. It was basically a social group to begin with. People would give long check-ins about work they had no intention of doing. And I went to the leadership thing and I said, look, I'd like to try out, I've been taking this class. I'd like to try out, you know, the structure, you know, with you guys, and let's give it a whirl. That was like the start of a civil war within the group. There was so much resistance to that. And then, you know, just finally by persistence, you know, we've transformed into what I guess you would classify as being a functional I group that actually goes through the various, you know, processes and actually does work. But it was like Mission Impossible really to introduce it to the group. So just a little bit of buyer beware, but it is, I think it's a very cool training, and I do recommend it.
Yeah, Paul, you bring up something that I've seen a lot of I groups. They get, you know, they've been meeting for a long time. They get stale, and then it kind of turns into a social circle where it's just, you know, a lot of lover, long check-ins. And yes, being a good leader in an I group, you got to spice things up a little bit. You know, have some different ways to run the meeting. And so men want to have resistance because, you know, they don't, I don't need to do my work. But then, bullshit. I keep doing my work. So thank you, Paul. Yes, I'm glad your group is becoming more functional because that's.
I agree, and also I think it's a real cool thing if you change your leader, you know, every week. Somebody volunteers and steps up, so they sort of buy into the whole routine and they get a chance to experience being the leader. and I
Yep.
think that helps out a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, in my I group, I never lead, and I do that intentionally because I lead in so many other areas. And but they know that things go off the rail, I'm there. But yeah, and we have a rotating schedule where men lead a group, and then next meeting we have a guy lined up. So that's what we do at my local group. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So what's next? Yeah, so how many guys do we have here?
25.
Okay. So let's go in the breakout room and do basically what's coming up for you and just maybe a check-in and what is coming up for you and just, about this meeting, what's your experience with MKP, and just get to know some of the other men in here in the room. And I'm going to, let's see, create 4 breakout rooms. And yeah, I'm gonna sign automatically, create, and we're gonna sit in here for about 20 minutes, and then we're gonna go to another break after that, and then hopefully George Faison will be here, and he's the chair of MKP, and go from there. All right, man. So I'm gonna go to your rooms. Go to your room. Go to your rooms.
Mike, do you need anything before I go to my room?
No, thank you, Tyrone. You've been helpful.
Sure thing.
Let's see. All right, I'm gonna.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, go ahead, brother. I just wanted to let you know I got to check out, my man. But thank you.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thanks for showing up. Erwin.
Much love.
All right, take care, Dennis. Good to see you.
let it never be said that I didn't get a one-on-one with the current chair of the project. It was about 2 seconds, but it was just you and me, George.
Just for a second, but hey, it's not the quantity, it's the quality.
Here, here. Those are 2 incredible seconds.
Indeed.
Josh, that's a gorgeous setup, dude. You're muted.
Wait until I turn my camera around and show you my fancy interface and all my knobs and buttons and monitors and stuff. It's my pride and joy.
Are we on a podcast right now? Did I miss that? This is podcast.
I'm going for
We could turn this into a podcast right now, no problem.
I can get right up on the mic and give you a little proximity effect and NPR vibes if you need some.
So Josh, tell me, what are we going to be talking about today?
You know, there's been a vibration in the ether that I've been noting with serious consequences for Tag, you're it. Somebody finish my sentence.
All right.
Wait, I think George is
Okay.
here. George is going to be talking about his sweaty balls. I think that's
Yes,
what.
oh, I remember that. That
Are
was,
we?
that was-
We are now recording. We are now.
Now that we're on Zoom, I can show you
Yeah.
those sweaty balls.
No,
Oh,
no. Yeah, no,
Sending this
that
to
was
the
a bold one.
FBI.
That was a good one. Okay, so good. Glad you're here, George. And we're going to take a break. We're going to take a 10-minute. Let's see. Let's take a. We're running a little ahead of schedule, so let's take a 9-minute break, and then we'll come back at 30 minutes past the hour, and then George is going to talk about his big vision with as the chair, and then we're going to roll into with Arlo and Mark Broder to talk about how we're going to buffer some of the challenges that George has created with his big vision. So turn off the videos, step away from the computer, and we'll see you at 30 minutes past the hour. Oh, welcome back. Got a few men that showed up here. And so, turn on your videos. And we got George Faison here. Dee, hey, Dee, good to see you. All right. So George loves this story, so I'm gonna tell a quick story to set George up. George, you know the story. So I live in the Greater Carolinas, and we had a pit that was scheduled in earliest October. Had trouble with participants signing up for it, and Hurricane Helena blew through, and so I'm not, that took the wind out of, literally it took the wind out of the sails. So we canceled the pit, and we had an NWTA in December, and so I had men sign up, and I ran the pre-weekend interviews. That's where senior staff interviews all the participants prior to the weekend. And I made sure that they included in the interview to talk about the upcoming pit that we had on the books for the latter part of this month in February. So make sure that they knew it before the weekend. And then I also ran integration on Sunday. And we always avoided talking about, next level trainings, especially with men in alter space. And we talked about it. We talked about it because there was no, pits are going to be part of the NWTA, and Burning Man's taking a pit and starting in 2025, it's going to be free. And so we talked, but sign up for this training. And, it took us a little while to get the registration link working, but that would be better yet to have actually one ready to go right after the NWTA. So when we got the registration link, we sent it out, it filled up in 3 days with a waiting list of 5 to 6 men in 3 days. And so we've got a full pit ready to go at the end of February. So, George, there's a setup. And I'd like to introduce George Faison, our new MKP chair. George, take it away.
Thanks, Mike. And it was really an extraordinary thing that you guys pulled together, not just the NWTA, but then opening it up, having so many men jump in for the pit. And so I really bless your community for your tenacity, for hanging in there in the face of everything that you were going through, and that, quite frankly, you're still going through. So, and to anyone who may be here from Southern California, same blessings. However we can be of support. There's a lot of great practices that came together real quick in Greater Carolina that we don't need to reinvent the wheel. So, at any rate, blessings. Thanks for having me here. It's a real pleasure just any time to speak to a lot of brothers at once, and especially with some of the things that have been going on. But I want to give you a little context for me. I did my weekend 30 years ago this year. I'll have the real pleasure of leading a training in another month in the same community as where I did my training. And it blew my mind. It was the New Warrior Training Adventure is a very powerful, powerful weekend. And what got me, though, is I've been in iGroup for 30 years. It was really the integration of the work, of the experience, of the camaraderie, all of that coming together. And frankly, we were fortunate to have a good pit. Had a guy that stepped up and just helped bring us together. And we bonded, but we really wanted that work, and having been encouraged to take that pit to integrate what we learned was critical. And as I said, 30 years, that's saying something. And it shows that, quite frankly, the integration, if anything, is the critical component. It's the other half of the process, if you will. A year ago, when I was elected, I wasn't elected right out as chair. They have a thing called chair-elect, kind of vice chair, but it gave me a chance to start really digging into some stuff that was of interest to me around iGroups, around our trainings, and how to really get the community, the project growing again, like we were a lot, quite frankly, before the pandemic. And one of the things I noticed that concerned me was that only 25% of the men who are going through a New Warrior Training Adventure end up in a pit. And I was like, wow, Okay, that's, let's look at that. And then I was also looking, had an opportunity to look at the financial structure of the organization. And I noticed that a lot of the communities, including my home community, had been charging the same tuition for many, many years, not, maybe a decade or more. So I'm looking at the financials there. And then I had my own experience of being in the Sunday afternoon process, which we call integration, where we get the guys and we answer some of the questions, like what do you say when you get home? What do you do when you get home? Be careful when you're driving. Don't go 10 miles an hour or 80. Maybe you remember that moment. Take your name tag off, that says Flying Turtle, and you wonder why the person behind the coffee counter said, well, here's your coffee, Flying Turtle, so. Anywho, I was saying, in that meeting, we were asking people to join the pit, and that might have been the first time they were hearing about it. And in many cases, we were also saying, and we do this for this much money. And it always landed on me as, wow, why are we waiting to now to talk about the pit? And number two, here we are hitting guys up for additional costs when they've just finished putting up a lot of money for this weekend. It just didn't seem like it was congruent with what we were trying to get across. I thought the optics were bad, the timing was bad. And from my own experience, I also felt that why were we not talking about the second part of what we offer right out of the gate? That initiation is one thing, but without integration, it's just a great weekend. And the statistics are proving this out. When you only got 25% of people coming through, something's not getting across. And look, I'm not looking for 100%. I don't think that's ever achievable per se, but at the very least, think of the impact on our communities, on our circles, on the world if we had 50% going through. So what I proposed, and I spoke with the area stewards, and I've spoken to this circle before, to many of you perhaps have heard this before. I said, let's really package this together. Let's, from the first moment of contact, invite men to an extraordinary experience that begins with an initiation weekend and continues with a path of personal growth with an integration. And let's put the costs up front so that there are no additional costs. So one piece I want to take an opportunity to focus on is we're not giving the pit away for free. So we really need to be careful of our semantics there. What we're doing is bundling the cost so that you get the initiation, and you're also going to get this primary integration training, additional tools, a different opportunity, different learnings. And primary to that is that you can take that anytime you want. If you're not taking, like I did my training in initiation in Washington, even though I lived in New York, I was anxious to get on a training. Well, I did my iGroup in New York. So if a man does that, goes through and say Southern California, but lives in Northern California, he can take that pit in Northern California. If he's traveling and, during the week, he's just hung out in a hotel, maybe the online training is ideal for that man. Maybe a community does an 8-week thing. Maybe they do a hybrid. Maybe they do an intensive, which over a weekend, all the same. It's included up front. When a man signs up for the weekend, he's signing up not just for the weekend, he's signing up for an opportunity, for an initiation and an integration. And the hope is that by getting him into a really good iGroup, a really good integration training, they'll get into an iGroup. They'll start to build it. They'll have the tools. And that then they'll start to see some real life change. It's personal growth. I think all of us who are in this room are in an iGroup, and that we've probably been in an iGroup for quite a while, and we're still getting benefit out of it. Maybe sometimes I'm the one doing work, but maybe another time it's another one of the buds, another one of the guys in the group. But we're feeding each other. We're helping each other become the men we want to be. And that doesn't happen in one weekend. So it's really, really important that we emphasize integration as being the other side of this thing that we're offering. So initiation plus integration. Now, the concern came up of, how do we staff these? How do we make sure we have enough facilitators? Some communities have a pit after every training. Some communities have one every 2 trainings. But what we've realized is that there's a lot of people who can facilitate, and that the barrier to facilitation is perhaps sometimes we think of it as a little too high or a little too difficult, when the reality is there's the iGroup facilitator training that a man can go through. But frankly, if a man is a ritual elder, if he's a grounding and renewal ceremony leader, if he's a CLC on leader track, if he's a certified trainer leader, all these men are capable of leading pits. You'll know who they are. It's up to the areas to determine if someone is ready to lead a pit. And the other side is that we don't have to do it alone. In fact, it's better if we have a cohort of men cooperating together on these pits, because if it's, say, an 8-week thing, maybe somebody's not going to be able to do all 8 of them. So they say, well, I can't do it. Or if you're doing an intensive, that's need a little help. There's a lot of processes. So to be able to focus on a few and trade off. What the key is that everybody who does lead the pit does need to learn the protocols. Well, that's a given. Whether we're, a staff on a new warrior training, we still got to learn the protocols. So we know how to do that. We do know how to do that. And there's the piece on, and Dan, you got the term, or Boyce, you got the term correctly, but it's about psychic safety and just being mindful of being able to read if someone's in distress, so that we can check in on them and make sure that we refer them to the mental health resource team, rather, in case of that, because it happens, right? We're dealing with a lot of men, and so the key is for us to be mindful. But we can do this. I just wanted to help, if you will, clarify that the areas make that ultimate decision, but look at the pool of people who are capable in a broader sense. Because frankly, what I'd love to see is we've been initiating 1,200 men a year the last couple of years coming out of the pandemic. If I'm not incorrect, prior to the pandemic, it was upwards of 1,800. Man, I'd like to see 3,000. I'd like to see more. I think we're poised to do that. I think the world is begging us to do this. And so in that case, we all need to be willing to step up and at the same and show our strength. I think every man that's sitting here on this call could certainly be part of a team that facilitates a pit. That's just my judgment. But hey, be big, right? That's what the world's looking for. Be big. So I'll wrap up. I want to open it up for questions for a few moments. At the same time, though, the program that we're offering for men is a weekend initiation and then a integration training. Subsequently, whenever and wherever the man can fit it into his life. But the key is, let's create opportunities for men to continue this work for long after their original initiation. And then I think we'll have an even greater impact than what we've had to date. So thank you for the time, guys, and open to questions.
Thank you. I see Federico, your hand's up.
Good afternoon, George. It's great to see you. Earlier this month, I think I met and was exposed to you at the iGroup session that was held by Mike. So that was really good.
Yeah.
But one thing that's come to me since then is, as I've read a fair amount of the news recently, and also learned of not only, even today, I think an article came out on toxic masculinity is kind of, gaining some momentum as far as being center stage, and also a resurgence around 20 and 30-year-olds where this is starting to resonate quite a bit for them. I'm curious what role you see, if any, MKP playing in having an opportunity to get our message out in places where right now there's maybe a counter movement around that, and just would love your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I think for exactly that reason, the message that we have to offer is exactly the alternative that I think a lot of men want to hear. this thing of toxic masculinity, I believe, holds men back. In other words, opening my heart is an extraordinarily vulnerable, but it takes courage. At the same time, it's extremely powerful. I believe our messages and our values, if you look at them, and I don't have them all right in front of me, but one of the ones that resonates most powerfully with me is inclusivity, connectedness. Men want to be engaged, but also at the heart of some of the things we teach on our weekend about a mission of service to make a better world. And so we can challenge men to really step up and be the men that they want to be, as opposed to fitting in with things that perhaps don't resonate, but okay, I can be part of this, but is it what they really want to be part of? Oh, I think we offer something much better. And so that's my message, and that's why I stepped up in the way that I did. And I encourage all of us, be big in a great way.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. Tyrone, is your hand still up? If not, I got Josh first on my list.
Thanks, Mike, and thank you, George. I think this is maybe the third time I've heard you pitch it. I love it a little bit more every time. You're saying something that I have been trying to articulate for as long as I've been doing pits, and to have the project move in that way is released something in me that was tight for, in my case, 17 years. So I'm really excited and happy to be in a position to support the unfolding of this. The thing that I want you men to know who may not be familiar, the PIT curriculum, I led a team for almost 7 years, and we fully updated the PIT curriculum and worked hard to make it congruent with the NWTA and for men's engagement of their learning from the NWTA to be foregrounded in the first days of the PIT. The materials are really, really clean. They're straightforward. They're easy to engage, not as easy to find yet as they should be on Connect. But it's a great time for this move, in part because we got our house in order on the curriculum side. So men will have an experience that dovetails with their NWTA, and for men looking at stepping up and leaning into facilitating a PIT, the materials are refined and as straightforward as we could possibly make them, as we were doing our best with the incredible legacy that we inherited. So just want to chime in a thank you and an attaboy and a let's go all together. I'm in.
Thank you, Josh. Ken Baldwin.
Thanks. So I want to just point out change management. We're in a change cycle here. And what we really need is everybody to start echoing this change, the language, the subtle change in language, the use of the new marketing materials, and the importance of the subtle change. So I'm asking each and every one of you, take George's, what he's asking for, and please help with it. Distribute our stuff and educate people that change how we're inviting people to, hey, come sit in circle and come and do this thing where it's this weekend, and then throughout the rest of your life, you're always going to have support, something to come into that'll integrate and help you get to, be the best man that you can be. In this change management, I also want to make sure that we understand most of us are in a shore up position in our areas. So we're not only leaning into change, but we're having to shore up some of the losses from COVID. And that means in PIT development in our area and enrollment in our areas, and finding out what iGroups we have and getting them to invite. And we're also in this opportunity of growth. So it's asking a lot. The most important key ingredient I have here is we need charismatic, risk takers, courageous men to show up. Show up as PIT facilitators, get on the PIT facilitation path, show up as inviters to say, hey, there is an answer to this toxic masculinity. There is something beautiful out there, and be willing to risk being out there on the forefront. and being the face of MKP that way. And then we need, in speaking to the person who was talking about the toxic masculinity of the young people, if we're going to go after, my wife's a teacher, and I'm very aware of how much they're talking about with teachers of the change in the culture of the young boys that are coming up and what they're being influenced and how they're showing up, and more are coming towards toxic masculinity. Is if we're going to answer that, there are many boys that want an alternative that is a powerful alternative, because right now they're presented be powerful, be a toxic, or shut up and squash it. And we offer that answer. We need to connect with those people at that level. So we're looking for people, scour around for young men in our project that will be willing to be the face on that and start birthing those groups, or be in a place that we can send to people. Boyson can speak to, you know, some of the opportunities that come across, but we didn't have the people to bring forward to create the bucket to send those people to that would be live and resonating enough. So I'm asking each and every one of you, again, lean into what we talk about Warrior Head. It's about not superheroes. You don't have to be that charismatic, but if you're willing to be courageous, we're willing to help and teach anybody who wants to go there to be that man we talk about on the context presentation. And that it's going to be 6 or 7 or 8 average Joes that lean in out there, that up level themselves to be a little bit more charismatic and a little bit more of a risk taker, and practice those skills. That's what's going to change this world. That's always what's changed this world, is 8, 10 people willing to take the risk together to step out there forward. So that's my pitch. Lowering my hand.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Boyson.
I love the conversation. George, thank you. Yes, I agree. Every time you do the pitch gets cleaner. And Federico, thank you. I'm going to point at a couple of things. Going where these young men are, we're not there in many ways. And that's something that Mankind Project, as well as 11 other nonprofits and for-profit partners, worked with an organization over the last 2 years, which I'm not even going to name in this phone call, because every time they get named and publicly brought out into the floor, the women who started this organization get death threats. And they were running test marketing through mainstream social media, including test marketing for the Mankind Project, that the organization would try and go toward that group of young men and provide slightly alternate messages to move them off of the path that they were going down, because the algorithms will feed back more and more intense content based on content that's being selected. And what they discovered is that we can actually influence what young men will follow if there is enough content for them to continue to follow the trail into healthier content. And right now, what's true is there are not a whole lot of content creators out there who are creating the kind of content that will allow that follow. So that was one kind of thing, that there is very intense data-driven work going on to learn how to influence young men in those spaces. And then another project that the Mankind Project is involved in, through my connections with the American Psychological Association and some other folks out there, is called the Men and Boys Compassion Initiative. And Men and Boys Compassion Initiative is developing programming, and this is one of those spaces where I'm in relationship with other men's work organization leaders to bring to young men, so like 11 to 14-year-olds, to engage them in ideas around strength with heart, to engage them in ideas around compassion for themselves and compassion for others. And that project has been going for about a year. We're building out a website. They're building curriculum content that they could be working with schools on to do some testing, that kind of stuff. What can MKP do? We could do more in going to where young men are, which is Reddit threads Substack, and YouTube. YouTube, we have plans for YouTube. Reddit and Substack, it's like a giant Wild West mess. And it will take effort, diligence, and bravery to venture into those spaces and hang there. So that's what I have to add.
Thank you, boys. Anybody else have any questions? We're running a little behind. Anybody have questions for George before we switch it over to Mark Broder?
I have a comment. Erwin Aloff, Chicago. We talk about primary integration training as just a learning accountability and clearings and learning how those processes. What Dan Baldwin said earlier, to me, the most important thing about these iGroups is giving and getting support. That if I have a problem, I have a place to go. If someone else has a problem, I have the opportunity to be of service to him to help him solve that problem, and our group to help him solve that problem. And after 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, I don't know any of us that don't have problems that come up. And so for them to know that this group allows them to be able to bring their problems in an authentic, honest way, not get judged, but be able to solve them as much as that is possible. So instead of learning integration training, just knowing that you're there and you're going to be able to be supported.
Thank you.
Thank you, Owen.
Okay.
All right, anybody else? Okay.
Raise hand, okay.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, I have a question for Boysen. You're talking about Reddit and Substack. Is there much going on, right? Is there much dialogue right now about MKP out there, and how's it going in that Wild West?
Substack, through some MKP guys, some new warriors who do have Substacks and Medium platforms. Mark Green is a good example, right? Mark Green is publishing content out of New York City on a regular basis to Substack and Medium, talking about men getting support, men breaking out of the man box, men being connected to one another. There are a couple of dudes out on some subreddit threads who I noticed throw in the Mankind Project as an alternate. But most of it, I'm going to say subreddit, especially Toxic Wasteland. And it takes a certain kind of personality to hang in there with those conversations, and few have that. And
what
I
does
will
that
own
mean
that
in
I don't.
toxic, what does
I have
that
not
mean in
dedicated the
toxic
time.
wasteland?
I'm sorry, Erwin?
What does that mean, toxic wasteland?
It means that there's a circular conversation that mainly focuses on focusing on victim mentality, blaming other people,
okay.
and continuing kind of really negative stuff around men and masculinity.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other quick questions? And running a little bit behind. I'd like to shift it to what George mentioned is PIT, staff development, and what Arlo's working on, as well as with Mark Broder. And Josh did highlight that, yes, our curriculum, we've got that all ready and it's ready to be used. And so let's figure out how to use it. So thank you, George. And I'm going to highlight Arlo and Mark, talk about the PIT Council, and as well as the PIT staff development.
Great. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Where's Arlo?
I put my email and Arlo's. Thank you, Arlo, for being here with us. Arlo Ryan Cohane, who has stepped up to take point on a staff development program. We're not calling it a training because it doesn't quite meet the usual expectations of a training. There's no charge for it. It's just about helping get more qualified PIT staff available, because we're going to need them as we move into this new program that George was talking about. And Arlo's going to have more to say about that in just a moment. But I want to first mention to everybody that we do have a pit council that meets on the second Wednesday of each month from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern. And we welcome anyone who has an interest in PIT. If you are interested in facilitating or writing materials, please email me, markbroder@gmail.com, and I'll send you the link to join the meeting. If you can join us, that'd be awesome. There's plenty of heavy lifting to do, and we need as much manpower as we can get. We talk about anything having to do with PIT, face-to-face and online, and we share experiences and best practices around the areas. We're also working towards having a PIT coordinator for each area who can help schedule the PITs, make sure that men going through the weekend have a PIT to go to sometime in a reasonable length of time after their weekend. And currently we've got 4 online PITs scheduled for 2025 quarterly. Each one in a different part of the country based and different staff, but hopefully we'll meet a lot of the needs for the PIT as we go forward. So Arlo, I'm going to turn it over to him for now, and he's taking lead on getting the staff development program going. So thanks for being with us here, Arlo. I'm going to turn it over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, men, for inviting me and having me. I don't want to talk about myself a lot. Just want to introduce myself, maybe give a little context to this, and then where we're at and where I hope we can go. My name is Arlo. I initiated November 2011 out here in Pacific Northwest. I've been involved in PITs for around 10 years. Last year, I was blessed as a leader of PITs here in the Portland area. What I have seen through the pandemic is not just a loss of men interested in attending NWTAs and joining the project, of course, loss of staff, loss of leadership in my area. Some little that I've heard from other folks, we're not alone in that. So what that has created for me as a leader of PITs and someone who really values what PITs bring, both to the project and to participants, is a need for men with some level of experience and some confidence and competence in facilitating a PIT, what I would call a staff man on a PIT. And what I have seen historically is just show up to a PIT, you'll catch on. And that's very low pressure. I think there's some value to that. However, especially now with the urgency of we want to offer something for men, we want that integration piece for men, I think it's important that we have something for leaders like myself, other men interested in PITs, to say, here are some skills, here is some level of introduction to the work so that staff men who join up on a PIT are able to participate, are able to offer what they have, rather than feeling intimidated or not knowing how or where to plug into any of the processes or how to show up throughout the PIT. So that's my desire, to have men join up, get that confidence, and be able to offer what I believe every man has through the PIT, through the project, in their community and beyond. So that's a short and sweet version. Open any questions or anything that I may have missed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arlo. All right. Any questions?
I got a couple and a little bit to offer. Arlo, thank you for convening this space. It's desperately needed, and I wasn't willing to do it, but I'm very excited to support you. So put me on your speed dial as you're pulling this together. And second, I'll say we did something similar for the online PIT during the pandemic when Ken Schultz and I were wrapping up the curriculum and we needed to roll this out because there was no other way to do this. And a bunch of men that had finished NWTAs and the world shut down and we had this backlog of need. We did a curriculum training for the online pit. And it was more formally a training because we were, you know, helping men get certified. But, you know, let's loop Ken in too. I don't, because I think a portion of it at least should be familiar with the curriculum and how to get one set up. I think that'll lower the bar that men have to step over, the resistance they might have. But then I'm really excited to hear you talking about just the skills and the practices that it takes to be effective. I think there'll be a lot of demand because there are men that have great presence, deep charisma, and incredible facility with NWTA protocols, for example, and a pit's not an NWTA, it's something else. And how we hold a container and the men over time, I think is something we have uniquely to offer. So that's just my thanks and my offer, and I'll hang out.
Thank you. Dan, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just really have a lot of high hopes for this program. And I think, you know, once it gets up and ready and strong, so we already got a great turnout. I want you to imagine if in every area that as many I groups had a person who was willing to be a part of the pit party and be on facilitation training for pit, and that every I group that would have a person that went to this kind of training on how to do a good pit. It's going to up level their I group a lot. And that guy's going to be a really good person to do it. Plus that guy is going to be able to connect with other I group people that are good at the pit facilitation. And we'll have an easier load. Like, hey, we got a pit to do coming up in the next 3 months. We got a whole pool of people that want to help out with it. And also those people can connect those people who go through the pit that need an I group to bring people back into their I group if they need to. So it's a win in so many different ways. Hoping we really strengthen our pit facilitation track people. Low bar, low commitment, but a lot of fun and a lot of upgrowth available here. So I hope we grow strong pit facilitation teams in all areas, in all communities, because you know, one in Milwaukee, one in Green Bay, you know, one up in Oregon, one up in Washington, you know, teams in all these different places. We're really talking about the 125 communities, not just the areas. I'm complete with that.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Josh,
your hand's up.
I just dropped in the chat the link that'll take you straight to the current version of the curriculum and the guidance for using, for administering pits. So there it is for you. Not easy to find and connect yet. If Boyson were still here, I'd harangue him in public about it.
Yes.
But in the meantime, it's all right there.
All right. To find it, just go to your home page, click on iGroup under Find, and then it's under iGroup Vibrancy. So you click on Vibrancy, and then they have a lot of the pit materials there. That curriculum laid out for face-to-face, online, hybrid, it's all there for facilitators as well as the actual manual. So it's there, and we'll try to make it easier to find.
Second biggest priority on my plate is overhauling that page. So it's on me, Josh. You can harangue me.
Dan, hurry up. Let's go. My harangue game is not high right now, but I'll when I'm really ripping, I'll let you have it.
All right. Hey, any questions for Mark or Arlo?
Actually have that page queued up to screen share. I was going to show everybody how to find it in a hurry, but if anybody would like me to go through that, I'll be happy to. Otherwise, you know where to find it now.
I just missed the link. He said he put it in the chat and I don't see it in here.
I pressed return, but I didn't press return. There it is.
Yeah.
See it now?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, so Arlo, what's your timeline? I'm curious. So basically what you're doing is you're having a team that's going to try to put this staff development together and then invite. Do you have a timeline for this and when men should start to look out and maybe try to promote this? or are you still working through that logistic?
Yeah, so the first thing we did, and I'll take a moment to thank Dan for all of your assistance. We sent out some feelers and reached out to folks involved in pits in different areas and got, as you mentioned, Dan, a really significant response. Currently, I have one group set up, and with the folks who couldn't necessarily meet on the same night, I'm looking how to get them to plug in. So with this first group, we'll call it, I'm looking to get together on a weekly basis, sort some things out, and my sense is that within 4 to 6 weeks, I want to have something that we can start iterating on. And some of the resources mentioned already, I think, will help with that. My sense for a lot of this is I have some ideas of what this could look like or even should look like, but I really want a lot of buy-in and a lot of people to contribute so that it has a good broad base that is applicable for a lot of folks, and we don't miss at least as much as possible. So the short answer is 4 to 6 weeks, I hope to have something to start sending out or at least trialing in certain areas.
Right. And what I love about this, Arlo, is, my sense in the past, pits have been always done a certain way in a community. And there hasn't been a lot of what do other pits areas do? I mean, there are better practices, and sharing some of these ideas and having this as maybe a forum to do that, I think is wonderful because, I think one way of doing something is great. And then also I see someone else like, oh, I'm going to steal that. And, that's, I think this is wonderful. Hopefully this will take off and let me know I can support you.
Awesome. Thank you. And I will just mention off of that, I have the same sort of sense just within my own area. An hour or two away, north or south, go to Seattle, go to Eugene. There are men leading pits there I had never met before the past few months. And just talking about this and trying to reach out and find resources and ways to make it happen has really started those connections. And I do hope once I step back, that whatever we create continues and goes on, and that connection in my area and areas beyond throughout the project. Just because my own judgment, NWTAs have been treated a certain way in the project and pits have been treated very differently. And there just has not been as much support, I would say. And I think that pits have suffered a bit for that. More has fallen on the shoulders of the areas and local leaders with that lack of broader support. I see a question here in the chat. I have my own. So the question is, have I defined any bite-sized short-term goals yet? Or is this for establishing that in concert with the mid and long-term goals? So again, I would say I have my own, which is just to have these groups meet and begin the discussion. I think a lot of the goals, a lot of the information that we're looking to share and come up with and make of value and benefit to others will have to come out of the groups. Because again, I'm just one man. I have my own opinions. I recognize that they are opinions. Yeah,
Can I
Dan.
answer a little bit? Yeah. So yeah, I got a lot of concrete short-term goals. I know Mike, in working with you, it helps to have numbers and metrics and things like this are clearly measurable. For me, I want to go area by area, know how many people that are on their facilitation teams, and increase that as a short-term loan to make sure that every area has at least a strong pit, or know what support they need, and then how can we support them in growing it more, and what resources they need. This will be one of the resources, this product that Arlo is going to create here. The pit council, hopefully we'll have every area involved in the pit council. And this project here will increase the amount of people, because many of these people that will be participating in his committee hopefully will be helping to lead the charge to have vibrant pit council with full attendance. So those are some of the short-term or immediacy goals of it all. I think that once the product is created, there will be a little bit more hard focus on area by area, which areas need support and which communities need support. I'll be working in tangent in community growth and development of targeting the 125 communities and assessing where they're at in their growth plans. And hopefully I can engage them to getting how many communities have somebody that focusing on expansion and pit and marketing with the pit included in the weekend as brand and more men sitting in circle. It kind of all goes together. So one of my short metric goals, the medium to long term, is more vibrant communities that are using these products and using these plans and being engaged.
All right, thank you, Dan. Any last questions before we move on? Okay.
Just wrap up with one thing, since I have the stage. I judge there's a tremendous lack of men of color in the project. I just want to highlight that. It has nothing to do with me, nothing to do with PITS necessarily. It is something that is important to recognize. So I hope that is a focus out there as well. Thank you for your time. Take care.
Thank you, Robin. All right. Take a breath. Okay, so wow, put a lot of stuff in there. So I appreciate all your time. So let's just highlight. We had Boyson and David Marshall and Dan Baldwin talk about the MKP, what was going on, and what are things to come. And then we had some program managers talk about trainings. You guys got to sit in breakout room with men that you may have never met before. And we had George come in and talk about the visions with the pit, and then how we're going to roll that out with Arlo and Broder. So tomorrow we are going to have a panel discussion in the beginning. So tomorrow from 1 to 4:30. So we have a panel where I invited men that have some experience starting new groups, as Dan talked about. And this was my vision when I first stepped in the chair, is to have more men in circle and stronger groups. So today we're talking about stronger groups. Tomorrow we're going to talk about more men in circle. So we have a panel that we're going to highlight, what some of the things that they've done, and so you can hear some new ideas as well as share some of your ideas on how to start a group, how to grow a group. And then we have instructors from iGroup Leadership Skills Training, then talk about leading a group, because it's really hard to start a group and grow a group if you don't have good leadership. And then I've invited men from the various societies, from elders to GBTQ to GNR to the Brotherhood, and Dan's going to talk about Young Warriors. So we have folks as well as the area steward. So you get to learn what's going on in each one of those societies and those circles. And then, yes, we're going to unveil the new updated iGroup meeting handbook, meeting guide that includes a bunch of mission work, because one of the feedback that I got is we don't do enough mission work in iGroups. And so we've had some monthly meetings in the iGroup Council, and with help from Randy Marks and Kevin Harbour, we've updated that to include more mission work in there. So that's for tomorrow. And so what's going to happen here, for anybody that's an iGroup coordinator, we're going to take a little break, and then we're going to have a little bit of an orientation for the iGroup coordinators if they want one. So any last questions before I say goodbye to the guys who are not interested in iGroup coordinators? Any questions about tomorrow? Any questions about today? Yes, Josh.
Mike, why are you so awesome?
That's not a question.
Fine, comment.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it. All right, and I want to thank for all the men that took my invitation and showed up today to share with you all. So thank you. Any other questions? Paul.
Yes. I've been on this current iGroup since the turn of the century. I don't know who we have as an iGroup coordinator. I mean, there were two guys that were supposed to be, funneling information back to the iGroup. I don't know who the iGroup coordinator is, what the function of that is.
Okay. Yeah, I think Eric Searing is the one for Chicago.
That's correct. And another thing that's important, Paul, is making sure we've got a good iGroup rep in MKP Connect for your iGroup so that information that goes out to reps comes to your group. I would gladly help you connect with Paul, with Eric, and to get check your Connect page.
Okay. Yeah. I noticed. Yeah. Fine. Thanks, Josh.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. So, if you like what you saw, looking forward to tomorrow, invite somebody else to show up tomorrow, and appreciate your time. And if you're an iGroup coordinator and would like to have a bit of an orientation, please stay. So, thank you, Matt, for your time. Enjoy your evening.
Thanks, guys. We'll try to see you tomorrow.
All right. Thank you, Eric. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too, man. And sorry I was late. I messed up the times on this one.
That's okay, Eric. We still like you.
What's up? What's up,
Maybe.
T?
I like you
up?
a little bit.
Hey, Eric. Look, I'll take a little bit. A little bit of liking.
Right.
All right, gentlemen.
See ya.
Eric.
Okay.
Oh, Jamie.
Peace.
You snuck in on me, Jamie.
Hey, Marino.
How you doing?
So the men who are here are iGroup coordinators, correct? Awesome.
No, some men just want to hang out for a little bit. I'm judging.
No, I'm not really clear that we have an iGroup coordinator in South Central area. I'm sure there is one, but I know we don't.
I know David Garrison doing some stuff, but he's more Austin focused, maybe.
Yeah, he's Austin.
Yeah, and I don't think your area does have one.
I'm talking to my area about becoming an iGroup coordinator, but I am not at this point. So I'm curious to meet you all and hear what you're up to.
No, you're welcome to stay so you can know what's involved in all that. So
I'm the iGroup co-coordinator in my area. Just want to put that out there.
yeah, I know you. Yeah,
Very important.
Thank you, Joe. Okay. All right. Well, Tyrone, ready to get started on this?
Can I have a couple of minutes? I need to go to the boys' room.
Okay, let's take a couple-minute break and then we'll come back and so let's see. Yeah, let's do. Can you do it in 3 minutes? I know your back's hurting you.
Yes.
All right. We'll see you at 25 past the hour.